Guys, we're back working on the 2004 Kawasaki Concours. Got a lot to do, and I'm going to tell you what all we're going to be doing, and we're going to figure out how we're going to get it all done, hopefully in one smooth shot. So, let's go to the bike. What we're going to do is I've got brake lines to put on it. I ordered some steel braided brake lines. We have a new tire to put on, front and back. I want to check the brakes. I'm going to drain the brake fluid out of the master cylinder. And also, I want to take this front end apart to get to the steering bearings and the steering stem. So we're going to try to do all of this stuff as we're taking the front apart to get to the steering bearing. So we might as well do everything else while we've got it apart. So we're going to have to kind of combine a lot of different things into this one video. Hopefully I can keep everything together and keep showing you what I'm doing. I wanted to do the steel brake lines because I'd heard that the older model of this bike had issues with the brakes feeling spongy or not enough brake force to the front end. They supposedly have it fixed by this model, but I'm sure these are the original brake lines. They're old, 20 years old. I want to go ahead and change them out. So I ordered these steel brake lines. I didn't order a kit. The kit was very expensive, and I found these steel brake lines on eBay. So I measured what I had because you could get them made to your length pretty much. But I think I ordered two that were too long. But I think I have enough to at least do the front for now, and then we'll worry about the rear one later. I feel like the rear one's not quite as important as the front. Front gives you most of your braking power. Also, in doing all this, I want to replace the throttle cables. So since we're going to be breaking all this front part down, this one throttle cable, the pull cable, I don't know if you can see it under here, it's broken. The adjuster is broken, and it's a cheap little plastic adjuster. I hate how they have this set up, but it's broke, and so you've got just a ton of play in your throttle, and that's adjusted out as much as I could get it, but it's terrible. So we're going to do that. I'm probably going to get rid of this little mechanical speed controller that they have on here. I have a better one that we'll probably put on here, and I don't like how this one kind of hangs up the throttle. It holds everything open all the time, even though that's released, and that could be partially due to the cables as well. So, got a lot to do. We're going to get started. What I'm going to do first is get the back strapped down so the front wheel's in the air, so we can take all the front end stuff apart. And we're just going to start top to bottom, I guess. Drain the fluid and stuff first, brake fluid first, and try to keep that leakage down to a minimum. So we're going to get started. All right, guys, so the first thing I did was I went ahead and took both front brake calipers off. Both of them, the pads look good, so I'm not going to worry about replacing the pads. Up here, you can see the brake fluid is pretty nasty in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compress these brake calipers all the way in so it gets as much fluid up in the reservoir as possible. And we're going to go ahead and suck all that fluid out, because like I said, we're going to have to take these off. And I wasn't thinking when I took these brake calipers off, but I should have gone ahead and broken these bolts loose here at the caliper. I didn't think to do that, but it's easy enough to just put it back on and finger tighten it and break it loose. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, so I compressed the brake calipers, and there's the brake fluid I got out of it. Pretty bad. So I went ahead and just sucked everything out of the master cylinder at the top. So we have that done. So now we can, I think I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and put the calipers back on and break those bolts loose on the hoses and get ready to get those out of the way. All right, got the front wheel off. I'd never seen more complicated front wheel come off. So let me explain to you how to take the front wheel off if you've never done it. Leave this pinch bolt tight. Loosen this one. You're going to unscrew from this side. I think it's this part. This part of the axle comes out on this side, and that will also. Oh, you have to disconnect your speedometer first, and then you will loosen this side. You can probably take your speedometer out at that point, and then you come around over here, loosen that pinch bolt, and then undo your axle out the side. It's kind of complicated. I've never seen one quite like this one, but it looks like it's effective. So we got the front wheel out of the way. So now I'm going to take a look up underneath here, see what we need to take out next to get this whole steering stem and everything out of the way. And I will be right back with you. One thing I'm going to do first before I do anything is I'm going to go ahead and take this fender off. It's got 4 bolts underneath here. I doubt you can see them because it's kind of dark, but I'm going to go ahead and remove those 4 bolts, get the fender out of the way. I also want to buff and polish this fender while I have it off, see how good it comes out. I did do the tank already, and it came out looking really good. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this off next. All right, so I removed these 4 bolts here. They're 12 millimeter, and got the fender out of the way. So now I think we're going to go ahead and pop this master cylinder hose off, because I know all that has to come off with the before the well, I guess it can come out with it because there's a little union in here that they both all go into, so those will have to come out together. So we'll break this line off here, and I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is break these bolts loose here on the brake hoses, because those will have to come out as well when I change the brake lines. So we might as well get them loose and get rid of them now. All right, guys, so the next thing I did was I just took the 2 screws out of here that took that cover off, and I loosened these 4 Allens here that are going to remove the handlebars. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the handlebars and just kind of let them sit up here. I'm not going to take everything loose and off right now off of these handlebars. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one, and I probably will have to loosen this bolt here too, but we're going to see if just loosen this, because it actually looks like it'll come off after that, but I'll let you know if I have to do anything different. But I'm just going to do the same with the right side. I'm going to put the cover back on the master cylinder here, so if any more seepage comes through, but I'm just going to kind of lay that off to the side, and you know, there's no sense in taking all that stuff off right now just to take the steering stem off. All right, here's where we're at. Hope I didn't skip anything, but took the risers off, took this brake hose off. I measured up from the base of the fork here to the top of the black cap, or to the bottom of the black cap, and it was 21.4 millimeters. So that way I know where to set my forks again for my spacers, where everything was at. Went ahead and marked both of them underneath of where the spacer goes, so it won't really matter that I marked it there. So I'm going to go ahead and break the fork bolts loose. I'm going to get the forks out of the way, and then we'll be ready to take this off. Actually, before I take the forks off, I'm going to take this off, and we'll see what I have. I think I can just probably take, if it's like all the other bikes I've done, we can take these bolts off and just kind of pull this up and set it up here instead of having to disconnect the ignition switch, and I think we get pretty much everything else broken loose that needs, or taken loose that needs to come off of this. So let's go ahead and get ready to take this off now. All right, guys, so I've got the forks out. What I did was I just loosened these two bolts here, the two on the lower part, and on both sides just did the same thing. Loosened all four of them. They're all 12 millimeters. You'll have to use a wrench on these because they are a nut and bolt. So got that out of the way. Next thing should be this. I went ahead and looked in the book, and the book suggested taking those off first. That's what they said to do. So we'll follow that. Now we're getting ready to take this, probably get ready to take this top nut off. All right, so I removed the steering head nut and removed the plate. It's just sitting over here. You got a little lock washer. So I'm gonna take that off, put it with the nut. And so now we're gonna have to take this bolt off here, or this kind of nut. I'm gonna check and see if if the tool I have will fit this. If it won't, we may have to come up with another plan. But I've got an idea what to do with it. All right, guys, so here's what I used to get this loose. I had to hook it. I don't know if I can show you with one hand. Let's see if the camera will. But I had to hook it right here. And if this makes any sense to you, I'll try to explain it to you. Let me hold it right here. And then I had to put another one right at the back of it so it wouldn't, because this tool here is a little too big for this, but if you put another one here, it keeps the tension in there, and that loosened that nut up. All right, so hopefully that made sense to you. Now hopefully we can get it tightened back up. Sorry, I hope I almost had the camera on it, but hopefully we can get it tightened back up. If not, there's other ways you can do it with like a punch and a hammer. Just be very careful. And there we go. So we get that off. We should be able to push the stem down and get it out. And that way we can grease these bearings and then put it all back together. Okay, so here's the lower stem bearing. Looks really good. There's grease all packed in it. So I don't know if this has ever been done before or not. I don't think it has. This might be factory. In the top one, you know, like I said, I kind of had to just hit this with a dead blow hammer just very lightly, and it popped it right out. So we're going to clean these bearings up, re-grease them, and put it all back together. But this is just something you need to do just to make sure it's done. You don't want these bearings wearing out. You'll get a lot of slop. And that is a good way to get some tank slappers going down the road. So get this out. We're going to get it all cleaned up, get ready to put it back together. All right, so I got the bearing packed and cleaned, and it has this little rubber O-ring that sits right in the top. So I'm going to get a little bit of this off because it's just going to smear out. But bearings packed really well. Got the lower one packed. So now we're going to just slide. Oh, let me show you too. I put the, to pack this one is a little harder because it's pressed onto the shaft. So you just have to kind of mush as much as you can in there. I'm going to rub a little extra up in here. And then I went ahead and put the braided brake lines on. So we've got those on. And we're going to try to stick this whole unit up there in one shot. So I'm probably going to have to I'm going to have both hands, so I won't be able to record it. But you just line this up, run it up through the top, grab it at the top, make sure the bearing stays in the race at the top up here, and then you're going to just start the nut on it like you did, like how we took it off. Okay, I know there's a whole lot going on in this area with hoses and things running everywhere, but torque this bolt down to 29 foot-pounds is what the book says. So I just put these forks in there to just kind of line everything up, We're going to now measure to get our height that we need on our forks, and then lock these forks down. I'll look up the torques on those, get ready to put all the handlebar stuff back on, and now we're just working backwards from where we were. So it's going to be about the same thing. I'll try to fill you in as much as I can. If anything's different, I'm just trying to get this job done, and trying to film it's kind of hard. Sometimes you miss things. So I'm going to measure these up and get those set right, and then find the torques on these pinch bolts and get all those torqued down. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I've got that at the right height. I torqued these bolts down to 11.5 foot-pounds. The lower ones, 15 foot-pounds. So I've got both of them done. So now we're ready to put the riser piece back on and put the handlebars back on and move on along here. So let's get cracking. All right, so I have the handlebars back on, the brake lines hooked up here to the master cylinder. And so next we have this cover to put on. Get that cover on there. I got a screwdriver and tighten that down. I torqued these down to 11.5 foot-pounds, I believe is what it was. The handlebars. So got those torqued down. We're going to next, I am going to do the tire. I'll replace the tire probably next, and then we'll get ready to put the front end together. I'm going to do some cleaning on the front fender. So those are the next two things we have to do, and then we'll get ready to put the brake calipers on and all that fun stuff. So coming along, kind of see if the lines would bend the right way, and these lines are a little bit long and a little bit hard, but I think they'll do okay. The one at the top is way too long. I'm gonna have to order a shorter one. This one's just too long, but for now it's gonna have to do. I will, like I said, order a shorter one, but I'm gonna go ahead and fill up the brake fluid. I want the brake fluid to kind of run down and start hopefully getting some air out of it, and before I put the wheel and everything on. Now the wheel, I've got it over here getting ready to change the tires. I have the heat running on it to try to soften it up some, because it's a cool morning and it's kind of rainy outside, so there's no sun. So I need something to heat these tires up so they come off a little bit easier. And so I'm going to do that. So while I was letting these warm up, I was doing the brake stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and put brake fluid in this. I'm going to kick the heater back on, get these warmed up, so hopefully they come off a little bit easier. Guys, I got to catch you up where I'm at. I don't remember where the last update was. I had a terrible time with these brakes. And I'll tell you why I had a terrible time with these brakes. I couldn't get them to bleed at all. So I wound up taking the bleeders out, and I don't know if it was a previous owner or from the factory. They had used like anti-seize or something on these threads, and in doing that, it stopped up the bleeders. The bleeders were packed full of like this anti-seize or whatever it was. I had to clean that out, blow them out really good, and then I was able to bleed the brakes, but I could not figure out why I wasn't getting fluid through these. I couldn't get anything. I put my gauge on it, or my medevac, and it wouldn't suck any air out. So I wound up taking them all apart, trying to figure out what was going on, and finally got suction through it. Finally got the brakes bled. I polished the fender, got the wheel back on, and hooked the speedometer back up. So I think we're about done. The brakes don't sound good, but they need to be, once they run down the road and get pressure on them, it'll clean them up. They're just have a little bit of surface rust on them. But the only thing I have left to do is just torque the brake calipers down. I didn't do that yet. So I'm going to torque the brake calipers down, and then we'll be done with this front end. We've got the new tire on, but this was all about doing the maintenance on the stem bearings, but also I wanted to switch out the brake lines with the braided. Down here, the lower section's not terrible. They're a little long, not too bad, but that top one I'm definitely going to have to replace with a shorter one. So I will get a shorter one and put on that, but hopefully I showed you how to do it, and hopefully it helped. It's a big job, but you can do it. And I got everything done up front. The steering feels really good. It didn't feel bad before, but it does feel really good. Moves nice and easy. So yeah, so I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe. I'll have more to come on this bike. I still have to do the throttle cables. Probably do that on a separate video since this one's going to be pretty long. So we'll do the throttle cables probably the next video. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ride safe.